Hello, I'm Colin Bartels, Team Lead in Community Recovery and Renewal at the Center for Urban Wellbeing. I would like to share my reflections with you on the discussion group we had about Mindset Revolution, which is a very innovative project led by my colleague Sonia Busu at the Department for Public Administration and Policy. And Mindset Revolution was a project focused on mental health of young people. And essentially, it was intended to be an open space for youngsters to shape, so in terms of what they would do and how. And there were three elements to the project. First of all, the use of legislative theater and train young people in doing and facilitating legislative theater. And it is a creative arts-based approach in which people who are normally at the receiving end of societal issues such as mental health challenges to create a play that articulates the challenges that they're facing and identify solutions, and together with the audience further articulate the problems and develop solutions and generate commitment to that to implementing those solutions as well. The second element is of the project was to co-design a digital participatory platform, and um, a link of which you will be able to find on this website. And thirdly, the co-evaluation of the whole process together with young people who are involved. Um, so Sonia gave a very rich and engaging presentation and shared reflections on each three of these elements. So first of all, on legislative theatre, the young people really put together a really inspiring and powerful play. Um, but we're also left a bit disappointed by the responses of the policymakers who were invited and their level of commitment. So it was a good experience, but not quite the outcome that I had hoped for, or not at all. Secondly, the digital participation platform was designed through an ongoing dialogue on how to deal with all kinds of barriers with improving mental health of young people to give that shape in a digital platform. One of the innovative aspects of that platform is an activity tracker that has been put in place for activities that have come out of the project and commitments that were made in order that young people can hold policymakers accountable for what they have been doing and whether they have um, um, lived up to their commitments and to what was agreed. So it really continues to ensure that young people have ownership of the outcomes of the project. Um, in terms of the co-evaluation of the process, one of the key elements that was appreciated was the flexibility that was of the academic researchers to help young people to stay engaged while navigating very complex and challenging lives. So we had uh, a great discussion on based on Sonia's presentation, thinking about some of her reflections around how we can do this kind of participatory research in an ethical and non-extractivist way. Um, there continue to be power inequalities involved when working with academic researchers, conflicts in expectations and levels of commitment, both between academic researchers and young people, but also amongst young people. Um, what the project managed to achieve was to build democratic capacities, that some of the partner organizations continue to support the project and its outcomes. New projects have developed out of it, and there has been both national and international interest in it. Quite rightly so, because I think it's a very innovative and impactful project. At the same time, challenges were with doing this kind of work within the constraints of the neoliberal university and having to constantly deal with the complexities and intransigencies of the lack of change of policy systems, resistance to change. Um, so we had a discussion on these kind of issues, in terms of how the project was led by young people, in terms of how it was organized, how they met, what they did, in order to ensure that it was beneficial to them, that they enjoyed it, and that they could stay involved, and that they felt a strong sense of ownership. Um, we also talked about policymakers really being the hard to reach people. Often we have policymakers and professionals who talk about certain social groups as being hard to reach, but it's actually the policymakers who are really hard to reach, because there's lots of churn in quite a volatile system. Um, with the legislative theatre, for example, what they observed was that policymakers, despite being briefed in advance, still were not sure what to expect and were hesitant to commit to follow-up actions. Um, so that's something to think about, and this was one of the reasons why the project was particularly focused on being youth-led and driven by the assets and needs of young people, rather than first and foremost, and giving them ownership of the project rather than being driven by policymakers and professionals. Um, we talked about mental health being a very big issue for young people, which meant that there was lots of interest in taking part, and a lot of interest in various organizations and policymakers in the project and its outcomes. Um, but that also makes it hard to make a sustained impact, really achieve structural change. Um, they didn't evaluate the impact that participating in the project had, or the project as a whole, on people, on young people's mental health. Um, but they did notice and observe and evidence a strong change in their democratic capacities, that they were massively increased. And this really raises question about what kind of change can we reasonably aspire to and expect when we're dealing with very complex and urgent sustainability crisis, such as around mental health, and taking a prefigurative approach to making a difference, while dealing with very complex policy systems that are resistant to change, working with a neoliberal university, which makes doing this kind of work very challenging in many ways. Um, so there's a need for universities to recognize this and to offer more support for projects, and for fundamental transformations in how universities are organized, for prefigurative projects like this to really make a sustained difference and contribute to a structural transition to of our sustainability crisis, such as around mental health. Right, those were my reflections. I hope you found those interesting. And if you have any reflections, issues, or questions in response, please do get in touch.